1,095 days. That's how long two Kangals sat in the same kennel watching family after family walk past. Not because they were broken, not because they were dangerous, because nobody in this world understood what they were built for, until the day a cowboy walked in, dropped to one knee on the cold concrete floor, and said three words nobody in that shelter had ever heard before. They were not pets. Let's be absolutely clear about that from the start. They were Kangals, one of the oldest, most powerful livestock guardian breeds to ever walk this earth, brought all the way from the mountains of Turkey at enormous cost, across an ocean, across thousands of miles, to build something new in a new land. That dream lasted exactly 14 days. They're too much. I can't handle them. And just like that, Boss and Lady were dropped at a shelter. No explanation, no apology, just the sound of a car driving away, and two ancient dogs standing behind cold metal bars, wondering what they did wrong. Boss was the male, jet black, broad-shouldered, 140 pounds of pure muscle, with amber eyes that looked straight through you, not at you, through you, like he was reading something you hadn't said yet. Lady was beside him. Always. Caramel Kahevengi, slightly smaller, with loose, wrinkled skin folded like melted wax around her face. Dignified, patient, watching. Weeks turned into months. 19 families came, 19 families left. Too independent, too big, too intimidating, too much. The shelter workers had seen hundreds of dogs come and go in their careers, but they had never seen anything like this, because somewhere around month 8, Boss stopped reacting to new visitors. He would sit, he would watch, but the light in his eyes, that quiet flicker of maybe this time, had gone out. Lady moved closer to him, as if she knew that whatever was left of their world, it was only each other. Some stories are too heavy to carry alone. This one deserves to be heard. 1,095 days. That is not a number. That is 3 winters, 3 summers, 3 full years of the same concrete floor, the same fluorescent lights buzzing 24 hours a day, the same sound of other dogs being called by new families while nobody called their names. But here is what nobody tells you about Kangals. For 6,000 years, these dogs guarded flocks across the mountains of Anatolia. They faced wolves, they faced bears, they slept under open sky with nothing between them and the darkness except their own bodies and their own will. Rejection was not in their bloodline, but 3 years of it, even the oldest instincts begin to bend. I see you're still here, but haven't subscribed yet? Honestly, that breaks my heart a little. Hit subscribe now. What happens next, you need to see with your own eyes. Carol, the shelter worker who had been there for 11 years and watched Boss and Lady through every single one of those 1,095 days, looked up from her desk. Tall man, broad shoulders, cowboy hat. He reached up, took the hat off his head, and nodded. "Ma'am." He said he had a cattle ranch about 40 miles east, a few hundred head of livestock. Coyotes had been a problem for years. He didn't want a pet. He wanted a working dog, something built for a purpose. Carol set down her pen slowly. "Sir," she said, "I think today might be your lucky day." She led him past the barking, past the chaos, all the way to the back, where it was quieter, where 2 large shapes sat in the shadow of a kennel that had held them for 3 years. Daniel stopped walking. He stood there, just stood there, looking through the kennel door. Boss lifted his amber eyes and looked directly at him, not past him, at him. Daniel reached up and removed his hat. Slowly, he lowered himself down to one knee on the cold concrete floor. "Lord Almighty," he said quietly, "what are these?" Carol told him everything. The fortunate cost to bring them from Turkey, the 14 days, the 19 families, the returns. She told them they were a package deal. Whoever took them took both or neither. Daniel didn't look away from the dogs. "How long have they been here?" he asked. 3 years, Carol said. The silence that followed was the heaviest thing in that building. 3 years, Daniel repeated, just to himself, like he was trying to understand the weight of it. His jaw tightened. His eyes, Carol would tell people about this for years, glistened. He pointed at Boss. "You're boss," he pointed at Lady, "and you're Lady." He looked back at Carol. His voice was steady but low. "Ma'am, how could anyone ever separate these two?" The day Boss and Lady left that shelter, it rained. Carol stood at the window and watched Daniel load them into his truck. She had processed hundreds of adoptions in 11 years. She had never cried at a single one. She cried that day. When they arrived at the ranch, Boss stepped out of the truck and froze. He lifted his nose to the air, his chest expanded. Something deep inside him, something bred into his bloodline over thousands of years of Turkish mountains and cold nights and open fields, woke up. Lady stepped out beside him. They looked at each other, and then they ran. Not in fear, not in confusion. They ran because they could. No walls, no bars, no fluorescent lights, just open land and wind and grass and space and freedom that had been waiting for them for 3 full years. Daniel stood there, hat in hand, watching them go, smiling the widest smile of his life. Within a week, Boss and Lady had claimed every inch of that ranch. They patrolled at night, moving silently across the hills like shadows with purpose. They positioned themselves between the herd and anything that dared move in the dark. The coyotes that had been a problem for years simply disappeared. Whatever was out there took one look at those 2 massive silhouettes on the ridge and made a different decision. And during the day, Daniel would wrestle Boss in the tall grass, while Lady watched with dignified disapproval. Boss always won, Daniel always laughed. Stories like this one don't come around every day. If this one moved you, it deserves to be seen. Some animals carry ancient purpose in their bones, purpose that no kennel wall, no rejection slip, no 3 years of cold concrete can ever erase. Boss and Lady were not broken by 1,095 days of being unwanted. They were not defeated by 19 families who couldn't see what they were. They were simply waiting for the one person who would drop to his knee on a concrete floor, look them in the eyes, and finally see them for exactly what they were. If you're thinking about adopting a dog, please take the time to truly understand the breed you're choosing. Talk to people who know. Visit shelters. Learn what they need. Some dogs aren't difficult. They're just waiting for someone built for them, the way Boss and Lady were waiting for Daniel. Because the right match doesn't just change a dog's life, it changes yours. Would you have taken both or walked away like the others? Tell me in the comments.